Hello everyone, welcome to the Clinical Chemistry 1 module for MTAP review, and we will discuss carbohydrates for this video. So dun tayo sa general features muna ng carbohydrates. So we have three major characteristics of carbohydrates. So first, ano ba yung mga components niya? It is composed of a carbon molecule, hydrogen, and oxygen. So from these components, they are basically considered as hydrates of carbon. Kaya tinawag na carbohydrates. So paano sinusulat ang chemical formula niyan? No? Number of carbon molecules, no? CX, and then number of water molecules naman. No? And then third, most of the carbohydrates are reducing sugars. Except, so meron tayong exception dyan, which is yung sucrose natin. Okay? So must know yan. Okay? So what are the functions naman of your carbohydrates? So number one, source of energy. Two, they are one of the components of the cell membrane. No? And lastly, no, they are also a component of the antigens present in the RBC cell membrane. No? So yung RBC antigenic characteristic niya, no, this is the basis for the ABO blood type of an individual. So we have three classifications of carbohydrates. We have monosaccharide, disaccharide, and polysaccharide. So doon muna tayo sa monosaccharides, no? We have the 5-carbon molecule of carbohydrates, which are called pentose, no? So ano yung mga example niyan? First, no, ribose and deoxyribose. So the main difference between ribose and deoxyribose is the presence of your oxygen molecule at carbon number 2. Okay? Hexose naman, which is composed of 6 carbon molecules. So ano yung mga example niyan? So we have glucose, galactose, and fructose. Okay. So disaccharides naman, they are a combination, no, of the 6 carbon carbohydrates. So first, ano ang product pag nag-combine si glucose plus fructose? So this is sucrose. Kapag nag-combine naman ang dalawang glucose molecule, magiging maltose. Galactose plus glucose naman, magiging lactose. And then, kapag nag-combine naman yung mga disaccharides natin, it will form your polysaccharide. So, mga example niyan, glucosans, fructosans, cellulose, and lastly, your chitin. So, again, no, meron tayong general rule. Most carbohydrates are reducing sugar except sucrose. So, first, discuss muna natin yung glucose. Saan galing ang glucose? So, pwede from external sources, your diet or food. From internal, glycogen. Glycogen is the storage form of your glucose. And other non-carbohydrate sources such as your fatty acids, mga yan. Okay? Glucose is the principal carbohydrate circulating in the blood. Pero, yung brain is the most important organ, no? Or the most important consumer of your glucose. You will not function well, no, if you have low glucose level. Kasi ang brain natin will work or will function well if meron tayong enough glucose level in our bloodstream. So, paano ba natin pinaprocess yung mga carbohydrates natin from the diet, no? So, mauuna yan from the mouth, no? Via your salivary amylase. And then, pagdating sa stomach, it will further break down chemically by your hydrochloric acid. And sa small intestines naman, with the help of pancreatic amylase. So these are the byproducts of the carbohydrate metabolism. So first, katulad ng nabanggit natin sa isa sa mga functions niya, it is a source of your energy. It can be stored as glycogen. Diba sabi nga natin, glycogen is the storage form of your glucose, and it can be stored as triglycerides, no? It will help numerous biochemical function in the body, no? I-discuss natin yan further pagdating natin sa lipids and lipoproteins. And number 4, it can be converted into keto acids, amino acids, and proteins. And i-discuss din natin pagdating sa module natin sa proteins that these are the components of the several hormones, no? Of our enzymes, yung mga yan. Kasi basically, enzymes are also proteins. So, ano ba yung mga iba't ibang klase ng processes of the carbohydrate metabolism? So, first, no, meron tayong tinatawag na glycolysis. Okay? Glycolysis is a process by which your glucose is converted into pyruvate and lactate, which is the molecule to create your energy. So hence, no, etong conversion na to will produce or result to a low glucose level in the body. Next naman, no, gluconeogenesis. So from i-divide natin or i-expound natin further yung kanyang description based on its name. So genesis means production, neo means new, no? Production of new glucose molecule, no? From a non-carbohydrate compounds, no? So from a non-carbohydrate compound such as your fatty acids, it will first be converted into glucose 6-phosphate. Okay? Glucose 6-phosphate will be then converted into glucose. So, sa gluconeogenesis, ang byproduct niya ay glucose. Hence, you will have a higher level of glucose sa bloodstream. Next process naman natin ay glycogenolysis. So, lysis means to break down, no? To break down your glycogen. And again, glycogen is the storage form of your glucose. So, pag dinegrade natin yan, it will convert into smaller component called your glucose. Okay? Kapag ito ang byproduct natin, ito ang magiging tataas ang level ng glucose sa dugo. Next naman, pag binaligtad natin, hindi mo masyadong kailangan yung glucose sa katawan. Ang gusto mo lang is store siya. Okay? Gagawin siyang storage form. So, ano ang term natin dyan? No? Glycogenesis. No? Formation or production of glycogen. Okay? So, if glucose is converted to glycogen, hindi natin madedetect yan sa bloodstream, and slow ang levels. Next naman, glucose is converted to fatty acids. So, anong tawag dyan? Lipogenesis. No? Production or synthesis of your lipids. No? And in this as in this manner, yung smallest unit ng lipids is the fatty acids. Kung yung mga molecules ay ng glucose ay na-convert to fatty acids, it will result to a low glucose level. Next naman natin, no, i-convert natin yung fatty acids to glucose. Ano ang tawag dyan? Lipolysis. No? The degradation of your lipids. Now, one of the byproduct of the degradation of lipids is glucose. And it will result to high glucose levels. So there are hormones that balances the glucose levels in our body, no? If you want to elevate your glucose level in your bloodstream, no, meron tayong mga hormones for that, such as your glucagon, growth hormones, epinephrine, cortisol, and thyroxine. Lahat ng to nagpapataas ng glucose ninyo sa katawan. Kung kailangan naman pababain, no, your pancreas will release your insulin, and for regulator, no, which balances the release of your glucagon and insulin, no, ito ang regulator hormone natin, somatostatin, which also produced by your pancreas. So, balikan natin si pancreas. Sabi nga natin, no, pancreas produces your insulin, somatostatin, also your glucagon. And meron tayong specific pancreatic cells which produces each of these hormones. Meron tayong mnemonics, GABIDS, no? GABIDS. GA muna, glucagon, produced by alpha cells. BI, beta cells produce insulin. DS, delta cells produce somatostatin. So, huwag kakalimutan itong mnemonics na to. There are notable differences between your insulin and glucagon. So, sino ulit ang nagpo-produce ng insulin? Your beta cells of pancreas. Sa glucagon naman, these are being produced by your alpha cells. Ano naman ang trigger or initiator ng production of each hormone? Insulin production is stimulated by increased, no, glucose level in the bloodstream. Your glucagon naman is stimulated by decreased plasma glucose in the bloodstream. So, after the production, ano naman yung mga actions nila? So, balikan natin yung table na to. Ito yung mga processes, no? Ito yung mga pinopromote ng mga hormones natin which regulates the glucose level in the body, no? So, alin dyan, no? Ang gusto or alin dyan yung actions ng insulin. So, sa insulin is stimulated by increased level. So, si insulin will then decrease the level of your glucose. It will lower or pababain niya yung glucose sa katawan. So, ano yung mga processes na yan? Unahin natin, ayan, glycolysis, ano pa ba? Glycogenesis, and lastly, your lipogenesis. So, baligtad naman kay glucagon. So, ang stimulator niyan is the decreased plasma glucose. So, ang action niya will then opposite. Papataasin niya yung glucose level sa katawan. So, ano yung mga processes dyan? Gluconeogenesis, no? Glycogenolysis, and lipolysis. To determine the level of glucose, no, you may process the following specimen. Pwedeng whole blood, serum, plasma, CSF, serous fluids, and even urine. Pero the standard clinical specimen to determine the actual blood glucose is the venous plasma glucose. And again, no, must know the fasting or the required fasting duration for a patient is 8 to 10 hours. Now, to compare the level of glucose in each sample, no, ang venous blood daw has a lower glucose level than arterial, venous lower than capillary, ang whole blood naman lower than your serum or plasma. Bakit kaya? It is because of the presence of your RBCs. RBCs are the main site, no, for glycolysis. Sila ang pinaka consumer ng sugar or glucose. Okay? Kaya yung RBC, which are only present in whole blood, is much lower in concentration. Pagdating naman kay plasma and serum, no, halos equal sila. Kaya pwedeng gamitin ang specimen na walang anticoagulant, pwede ka rin gumamit ng anticoagulated blood. Okay? Sa CSF naman, in comparison with your plasma, no, your CSF has a blood glucose concentration of almost 60 to 70% of that of plasma concentration. If you will use serum as your sample, it must be separated from the whole blood within 30 to 60 minutes kasi kakainin na ng RBC yung glucose content ng sample. Okay? At room temperature, if you will store the specimen at room temperature, glucose will decrease or will be metabolized by your RBC, no, at a rate of 7 milligrams per hour. Kapag naman madedelay ka at ng pag-process at you decide to store the sample inside a refrigerator at 4 degrees Celsius, the RBC will still metabolize the glucose at a rate of slower na 2 milligrams per DL per hour. So what is the preferred anticoagulant to address this RBC metabolism? So you will need to collect the blood using an anticoagulant called sodium fluoride, no? And it is designated as gray sa ating mga BD vacutainers. Ano ba ang advantage ng sodium fluoride as an anticoagulant? So it prevents the glycolysis for 2 to 3 days or 48 to 72 hours. So we now enumerate the methods being used to determine the glucose concentration. So we have two types of methodologies. We have non-enzymatic or chemical methods and next enzymatic methods. So from the name itself, pag enzymatic, we will make use of enzymes. Kapag chemical methods naman, we make use of chemicals. So, anong mga example ng non-enzymatic or chemical methods? We have copper reduction, ferricyanide method, and condensation. Sa enzymatic methods naman, we have glucose oxidase, hexokinase, and glucose dehydrogenase. Okay, so sa copper reduction test, ano ang principle behind this test? So, ang principle behind is that the copper will reduce sugar in order to determine their presence. or their level. So, again, no, meron tayong rule na most carbohydrates are reducing sugars except your sucrose. So, si sucrose ang hindi niya kayang ma-detect ng test na to. Okay? So, we have three basic methods which follows the copper reduction test. Folin-Wu, Nelson-Somogy, and neocuproin. Sa Folin-Wu, the reagent being used is the phosphomolybdate and it will result to blue color sa presence ng glucose. Nelson-Somogy naman, it will make use of arsenomolybdate and parehas sila ni Folin-Wu na blue yung color. Neocuproin naman, make use of the same name na reagent, neocuproin din. And dito ito lang yung kakaiba ang color, no? Orange red or yellow to orange, no? Yung pinaka madaming glucose content, no? Ito yung last color or the intense orange color. Next method naman, ferricyanide, no? Also known as ferric reduction or Hagedorn-Jensen method. And the principle behind this test is the negative or inverse colorimetry. The presence of a parameter for this in this method naman is yung glucose. The presence of your glucose will result to the absence of color. Ano ang reagent natin dyan? No, we make use of alkaline solution of potassium ferricyanide. So the result, if there is a presence of glucose, no, the color will disappear, and then it will be tested using spectrophotometer at wavelength of 400 nanometers. The last method for non-enzymatic type of method is condensation, or also known as orthotoluen method. Kasi we make use of orthotoluen as reagent plus glacial acetic acid at 100 degrees Celsius of temperature. The positive result, if present ang glucose, it will result to bluish green or green in color. It will then tested again by spectrophotometer at wavelength of 620 to 630 nanometers. So let's now proceed with the enzymatic methods. Unahin natin yung glucose oxidase. In this method, it is very specific to your beta-D glucose. So, meron tayong mga ibang types of methodology which make use of glucose oxidase. Unahin natin, polarographic method. Ano ang principle behind this? That the rate of decrease in oxygen is proportional to glucose level. Kung gaano kabilis mawala or maubos ng oxygen, ngayon ang level or concentration of your glucose. Pero meron tayong source of error for this type of methodology. It is the presence of your hydrogen peroxide, no? Hydrogen peroxide will be degraded into oxygen molecules, and this extra or extraneous oxygen molecules will delay the reading of the glucose concentration. So, kailangan natin matanggal ito by adding either of the two, ethanol. Yung ethanol will, if na-combine natin with hydrogen peroxide, will form acetaldehyde and therefore will not interfere with the reading of your results. Same way as your iodide. Kapag yung iodide, kinombine mo siya with the hydrogen peroxide, it will form your iodine, and again, it will not interfere with this methodology. So next type of method which makes use of glucose oxidase is colorimetric method. So aside sa glucose oxidase, no, it makes use of peroxidase and a chromogen. Chromogen will be your indicator for the presence of glucose. So ano yung mga pwede mong gamitin as chromogens? Unahin natin yung orthodionisidine, no, which will result to blue in positive result, amino antipyrine, rose pink, orthotolwithin, narinig natin yan kanina, which also presents as green as positive result. So, again, no, anong problem natin sa colorimetric method? Ang glucose oxidase natin kasi, as I mentioned a while ago, is very specific to beta-D-glucose form. So, kapag kokonti ito, no, yung other type niya, which is the alpha-D-glucose, yun yung marami, yun, pwede pa rin natin siya i-test by adding your mutaroatase enzyme. So, this enzyme will convert your alpha-D-glucose to beta-D-glucose. And then you will now, you can now determine the presence or the level of your glucose. So aside dun sa nabanggit kong problem, we also have another problem, yung mga extraneous sources of errors natin. So unahin natin yung mga oxidizing agents, no? Oxidizing agents will cause false increase kasi nga yung ating enzyme which is glucose oxidase, no? Kung present ito, it will count as an oxidizer. So, akala ng method nyo na glucose pa rin yung kanyang ino-oxidize. Yung pala, itong mga oxidizing agents, such as your bleach and detergents. No? So, huwag kakalimutan, oxidizing agents in glucose oxidase-based methodologies will cause false increase. Reducing agents naman, reducing agents can reduce, no, your glucose. Therefore, no, bago pa natin matest sila, it will now result to a false decrease levels. So example of reducing agents are the following: ascorbic acid, no, and then bilirubin and hemoglobin. So kailan ba nagkakaroon tayo ng presence of bilirubin and hemoglobin sa sample? Kapag meron tayong hemolysis. Okay? So, iiwasan natin ang hemolyzed specimen for glucose determination. Next method is the reference method for glucose analysis called your hexokinase. Hexokinase method, no, it's determined spectrophotometrically at wavelength of 340 nanometers. It makes use of two enzymes called your hexokinase and G6PD. G6PD stands for glucose 6-phosphate dehydrogenase. So, ano yung mga actions nila? Unahin natin yung hexokinase. So, glucose plus ATP, dadaan kay hexokinase, it will be converted to glucose 6-phosphate or G6P. Si G6P, add natin si NAD. Okay? Dadaan kay G6PD enzyme, it will be converted to your NADPH. NADPH will be measured spectrophotometrically, no, at wavelength of 340 nanometers. And then we have a modified version of hexokinase, no? Iibahin lang natin ng very slight. So unahin natin, no, may pagkakaiba sila sa absorbance. Ang gamit dito is 520 nanometer, and another difference is that modified hexokinase method makes use of chromogens or indicators as part of the reagent. The last enzymatic method is glucose dehydrogenase. The reagent for this, no, yung source ng enzymatic reagent natin is the bacteria called Bacillus cereus. Okay? And may problem tayo with this method, no? Kasi ang method na to is very non-specific, meaning it can also detect other type of carbohydrate aside from glucose. So pwede siya mag-detect ng maltose, icodextrin, and galactose. So ano ang gagawin? So ano ang ine-expect natin kapag present ito sa sample natin, no? Dahil very non-specific si glucose dehydrogenase, it will cause a false increase in our results. We have other tests for other carbohydrates aside from the glucose, no? We can test for the fructose level using your Seliwanov test. Ano ang reagent natin yan? We make use of heated hydrochloric acid plus resorcinol, and the positive result is red. Next naman, para sa mga pentoses natin such as ribose and deoxyribose. Ang tawag dyan is Beal's test or Beal's test. Reagents used, hydrochloric acid, orcinol, and ferric chloride. Positive result is green. So, laboratory test naman na tayo. Unahin natin RBS or random blood sugar. We expect a normal individual to show or present with less than 200 milligrams per deciliter. Pagdating naman kay fasting blood sugar, again, no, ito yung mga individuals who fasted for 8 to 10 hours. In a normal patient, kailangan less than 100 milligrams per deciliter in order to determine that there is an impaired fasting glucose condition. Kailangan ang kanilang levels ay 100 to 125 mg per dl. And next, provisional diabetes diagnosis. Ibig sabihin, the result must be um, um, correlated with the symptoms of or the presentation of the patient. No? So the provisional diabetes diagnosis will show a more than or equal to 126 milligrams per dl of blood glucose level. Next laboratory test is the 2-hour postprandial blood glucose or 2-hour PPBG. So, paano to ginagawa? First, yung patient, no, advise natin for mag-fasting for 8 to 10 hours. Kukuhaan mo ng dugo for the FBS. And then, the patient will be given a glucose load of 75 grams. After 2 hours, you collect the blood. Okay? The normal individual will show a result of less than 140 milligrams per deciliter. Pag meron siyang impaired glucose or impaired glucose tolerance or pre-diabetes, they will show 140 to 199 milligrams per deciliter of glucose concentration. Pag provisional diabetes diagnosis naman, more than or equal to 200 milligrams per deciliter. Parehas ni RBS. In Bishops, no, hindi na term to as 2-hour postprandial blood glucose. Ang term na is 2-hour OGTT. And this test is done for all adults, no, except for pregnant women kasi iba ang kanilang procedure. So, paano ang OGTT for pregnant? So, first, mag-FBS muna, fasting, for 8 to 10 hours, and then collect blood. After that, no, mag-glucose load tayo sa buntis. So, meron tayong dalawang approach dyan. Yung luma is the two-step approach. So, paano ginagawa to? So, yung first step is that magbibigay ng 50 grams then collect blood after 1 hour. Kapag ang result ng test niya ay more than or equal to 140 milligrams per DL, you proceed to the second step. No, sa second step, magbibigay ka ng 100 grams, then collect blood after 2 hours. Pero sa book natin, no, sa Bishop, meron na tayong one-step approach. So, paano to ginagawa? Magbibigay ng 100 grams as glucose load, then collect blood after 3 hours. So, these are the following guidelines for patients who will undergo OGTT. So, first, patients should discontinue medications related to diabetes. Second, patients should avoid a high carbohydrate diet para maiwasan yung false increase in the levels of their glucose. Third, no, kapag nagbigay ng glucose load, they should finish drinking the glucose load within 5 minutes lang, no? And then lastly, dapat hindi sila magsusuka. Kapag nagsuka sila, you will give another glucose load. Next test is HbA1c or glycosylated hemoglobin. Important yung test na to kasi you can see or monitor the patient, no? Patient's glucose control over the previous 2 to 3 months. So, anong basis nitong span or duration of time na to? Kasi remember, RBC's lifespan, ang average niyan is 120 days. So, yun yung basis nun kasi si hemoglobin nasa loob ng RBC. Okay? Anong part ng hemoglobin makikita yung glucose molecule? So, si glucose daw, no, naka-attach siya sa valine part ng beta chain ng mga normal adult hemoglobin. Kaya HbA adult hemoglobin yan. No? So, must know ito, pakilagyan ng star. No? For every 1% in HbA1c, there is a 35 mg per dl change in plasma glucose concentration. Okay, pakilagyan ng star yan. No? So, anong gagamitin nating specimen para ma-check si HbA1c? You make use of EDTA whole blood. Bakit whole blood? Kasi gusto nga natin magamit si RBC dahil nandun yung HbA1c. Okay? So, kung mag-request si physician ng FBS, fasting blood sugar, and HbA1c, ilang tubes and ano ang tubes na gagamitin mo? No, isang red and isang lavender top. Okay? So, dapat separate sila. Kasi si FBS, para siya sa yung fasting blood sugar mo, and yung EDTA para sa HbA1c. Okay? And then, for interpretation of results, kapag ang result ay less than 5.7, normal yan. 5.7 to 6.5 is pre-diabetes or impaired glucose tolerance. And then, for provisional diagnosis for diabetes, more than 6.5%. Next test is glycosylated albumin or fructosamine. In contrast with HbA1c, which is being used to monitor the glucose control for 2 to 3 months, ang fructosamine naman ginagamit for monitoring ng glucose control natin for 2 to 3 weeks. Okay? And lastly, no, yung pinakabago, the AGE or the Advanced Glycation End Products. So, itong mga end products na daw na ito, no, yung mga proteins, lipids, and nucleic acids natin, once exposed to high glucose concentration, magbabago yung kanilang kanilang formation ng chemicals or nagkakaroon ng rearrangement or tinatawag natin Amadori reaction. Okay? And this rearrangement of proteins and lipids or nucleic acids, they tend to be predisposed, no? The patients will be predisposed to atherosclerosis. Kaya one of the dreaded complications of diabetes mellitus is atherosclerosis. Punta naman tayo sa mga conditions resulting from abnormal glucose concentration. Unahin natin yung low blood glucose or hypoglycemia. So, in a normal individual, kapag ang glucose level niya ay bumaba up to 65 to 70 milligrams per deciliter, magkakaroon ng reaction yung katawan natin, no, to produce a set of hormones which increase your blood glucose or yung glycemic factors natin, such as yung mga na-discuss natin kanina, no? Yung mga hormones na nagpapataas ng blood glucose, glucagon, growth hormone, epinephrine, cortisol, and thyroxine. Kapag bumaba pa, no, bumagsak pa yung blood glucose mo up to 50 to 55 milligrams per deciliter, ito na yung start na magkakaroon na tayo ng signs and symptoms related to hypoglycemia. So, ano ba yung mga symptoms related to hypoglycemia? We group these symptoms into these two, neurogenic and neuroglycopenic. Sa neurogenic, no, yung mga symptoms ay related to the affectation of your autonomous nervous system, such as yung trembling, sweating, nausea, no, lightheadedness, yung mga yan, no. And then, sa neuroglycopenic naman, related dyan yung mga CNS symptoms or central nervous system. Siyempre sa brain yan. So, yung mga symptoms such as headache, no, dizziness, blurring of vision, loss of consciousness, even death, no? So, yun yung mga signs and symptoms related to hypoglycemia. So, we have a critical value. Pakilagyan lang ng star kasi must know to. What is the critical value of low blood sugar? 40 milligrams per deciliter. So, kapag ganito, ang value niya, no, mahirap, dapat kailangan ng further evaluation and management, no, and immediate management kasi mahirap habulin or pataasin na itong value na to. And a severe CNS dysfunction, which includes being in a coma, no, loss of consciousness, magsa-start yan at 20 to 30 milligrams per deciliter. So, meron tayong mga pasyente na, yun nga, no, nawawalan ng malay pagdating sa ER. To assess if the patient is suffering from hypoglycemia, meron tayong tinatawag na Whipple's triad. No, Whipple's triad, no, number 1, low plasma glucose. Number 2, yung patient, no, presented with symptoms related to hypoglycemia, either neurogenic or neuroglycopenic yan. And number 3, may relief ng symptoms after natin makorek or mag-start ng medications or management correcting the low blood sugar. We have two types of hypoglycemia. Number 1, reactive or postprandial, caused by a stimulus. Example, medications, exposure to toxins, yung mga yan. No, basta walang underlying disorder yung pasyente. Kapag meron na, ang tawag doon, no, ay fasting or post-absorptive hypoglycemia. Punta naman tayo sa increased plasma glucose level or hyperglycemia. The critical value naman dito is more than 500 milligrams per deciliter. So we have a lot of tests which can be associated with hyperglycemia. So, syempre, unang-una na dyan, yung plasma glucose concentration. Serum osmolality is usually increased or high. Ketones, meron, no? Or presence of abnormal ketones. Blood pH is decreased, no? Kasi nagkakaroon tayo ng ketoacidosis. Okay? And there is an electrolyte imbalance. Sa urine naman, no, urine glucose, pwede, no? Once yung blood sugar mo tumaas or na-oversaturate ng up to 160 to 180 milligrams per deciliter, umaabot na yung sugar papunta sa ihi. There's also an increased urine osmolality, increased ketones, decreased urine pH, and increased or high specific gravity. Next, diabetes mellitus. Diabetes mellitus is actually a group of metabolic disorders, no, which result to high blood sugar over a prolonged period of time. It is associated with number 1, polyphagia, no, which presents with intense hunger leading to frequent eating. Polydipsia, no, meron kang intense thirst leading to frequent drinking of water. And then next, polyuria, frequent urination naman. And then lastly, no, recently added is the unexplained weight loss. There is also a condition called diabetes insipidus, and you must not be confused, no, between diabetes mellitus and insipidus kasi magkaiba talaga sila. So to differentiate, no, I refer tayo dito sa table na to. Diabetes mellitus involves hormone called your insulin. Ang diabetes insipidus naman, ang defective hormone is ADH or antidiuretic hormone. Sa water excretion, no, parehas sila, no, they both present with increased urinary or urination, kumbaga, no, or polyuria. Sa hyperglycemia naman, present lang yan kay diabetes mellitus, wala kay diabetes insipidus. Pagdating naman kay specific gravity, no, elevated kay diabetes mellitus, no, low naman kay insipidus. These are the 3 criteria for the diagnosis of diabetes mellitus. Number 1, no, a patient presents with signs and symptoms plus a random blood sugar level of greater than or equal to 200 milligrams per deciliter. Sa FBS naman, more than or equal to 126 milligrams per deciliter. And sa 2-hour PPG or OGTT, more than or equal to 200 milligrams per deciliter. Pero, no, ano pa lang yan, isi-screen mo muna sila. Kapag to confirm your diagnosis, kailangan mo ulitin ulit, no, yung testing on a different day. We have 2 types of diabetes mellitus, type 1 and type 2 diabetes mellitus. Okay? In terms of frequency, sino ang madalas natin makita sa general population? Si type 2 diabetes mellitus. Pagdating naman sa affected age group, sa type 1, mga bata, no, children or young adults. In type 2, advanced age, yung mga pasyente. Risk factors naman, type 1, ang mga predisposed sa mga type 1 is if ever may genetic predisposition or genetic problem or with autoimmune disorder, no, leading to autoantibodies. Okay? And then sa type 2, pwedeng genetics, lifestyle, no, ng pasyente, and lastly, your chronic diseases such as your hypertension, dyslipidemia, and PCOS. Pathogenesis naman ng dalawa. So type 1, no, presents with a beta cell destruction by your autoantibodies. No? Yung meron kang mga antibodies targeting your beta cell. And beta cell produces your insulin. No? And then sa type 2, there is an insulin resistance or insulin deficiency, but not through the destruction of your beta cell. no? Minsan meron tayong beta cell pero very non-functional, leading to insulin deficiency. Okay, treatment naman. Sa type 1, dahil wala nga silang innate source of insulin due to the destroyed beta cell, kailangan magbibigay ka ng insulin. Automatic yon. Sa type 2, hindi lagi nagbibigay ng insulin. Uunahin mo muna yung mga tablets, no? Tablet form, oral medications muna. Kapag hindi nagana, doon lang tayo magbibigay ng insulin. Kasi baka isa sa mga problem ng may type 2 DM ay insulin deficiency. Pagdating sa prevention, no known prevention or preventive measures for type 1 diabetes. Pero sa type 2, pwede mo siyang ma-prevent by modifying your lifestyle, no, your eating habits, and by early detection. Okay, next naman, levels of C-peptide. Para saan ba si C-peptide? No? It is a parameter which is associated with insulin resistance. Kapag mataas yung C-peptide mo, ibig sabihin, your cells resist the action or the effect of insulin, leading to high glucose level. Since sa type 1 ay wala namang insulin resistance, usually the C-peptide is very low or undetectable. Dito naman tayo sa type 2 dahil may insulin resistance, high or elevated ang levels ng C-peptide concentration dito sa mga pasyente na to. Sa pre-diabetes monitoring naman or screening, no, lalo na if you want to detect autoimmune problem, ang type 1 presents with autoantibodies. Sa type 2, laging negative, no autoantibodies. Punta naman tayo sa another type of diabetes mellitus called gestational type, no. This type is develops in pregnancy, okay? And kapag nagkaroon ka ng gestational diabetes mellitus, no, while pregnant, you will develop type 2 diabetes within 10 to 15 years after nung pregnancy period ninyo, no? And to detect gestational DM, no, we prefer to use OGTT, just as we discussed a while ago. So, meron tayong two approaches, di ba? May one-step approach and two-step approach. Sa one-step approach, again, no, magbibigay ka ng 100 grams ng glucose load sa patient, then collect blood after 3 hours. Sa two steps naman, dalawa ang step. Okay, sa first step, 50 grams glucose load, collect blood after 1 hour. Kapag na-check mo na ang level niya ay more than or equal to 140 mg per deciliter, you proceed to second step. Sa second step, magbibigay ka ng 100 grams of glucose load, then collect blood after 2 hours. Next, disorders, no, glycogen storage diseases. Sa glycogen storage diseases, patients usually presents with defective enzymes, no? It's either absence or deficient in number or low levels of enzymes for glycogen metabolism. So in this patient, kapag hindi ka nakakapag-metabolize, no, meron kang accumulated byproducts which affects your biochemical processes. So, marami tayong types. I-group lang natin sila by color, no? Para mas madali nyong maalala sila. Unahin natin yung type 1, type 2. Von Gierke and Pompe or Pompe disease. Sa Von Gierke, enzyme deficient mo ay glucose 6 phosphatase. Sa Pompe, acid maltase or acid alpha glycosidase. Okay, magka-group yan. So, next group naman natin, type 3 and type 4. No? Pinag-group ko sila kasi halos same sila ng enzyme deficient. Si Corey Forbes, the brancher enzyme ang deficient. Sa Anderson naman, branching enzyme. And the brancher enzyme natin dito is also known as amylo 1,6 glucosidase. Ang branching enzyme ang other name niya ay amylopectinase. Next group, si 5, 6, and 7. Pinag-group ko sila kasi phospho group ang kanilang mga enzymes. Okay? Sa McArdle, kulang siya ng muscle phosphorylase. HERS disease naman, liver phosphorylase. TARWI, muscle phosphofructonase. Okay? And the last group is yung mga newly added glycogen disorders natin, your type 9 and type 0 or type O in some books, no? Type 9, Fanconi-Bickel, no? Deficient enzyme is glycogen transporter 2, and the newly added type 0 is the glycogen synthetase. Next is inborn errors of carbohydrate metabolism. So, itong mga inborn errors of metabolism, the patient presents with a genetic mutation causing the absence of the enzyme affecting the metabolism of a compound. No? For this, sa examples, no, disorders of galactose metabolism muna tayo. One of the problem is galactosemia or high levels of galactose in the bloodstream. So ano yung mga possible deficient enzymes na pwedeng mag-cause nito? Number 1, your galactose 1 phosphate uridyl transferase deficiency. Number 2 naman, uridine diphosphate galactose 4 epimerase deficiency, and lastly, your galactokinase deficiency. So, be familiarized lang sa mga questions na to kasi ang madalas na tanong, no, all enzymes can cause galactosemia except. So, usually, ganun ang tanong pagdating sa mga part na to. Next, disorders of fructose metabolism. So, pwedeng madami kang fructose sa bloodstream mo na pwedeng lumitaw sa urine. Ang tawag natin essential fructosuria. Ang kulang natin dito is fructokinase. Next naman, kapag pwede ang patient mag-present with fructose intolerance, meaning if they intake fructose from their diet, no, it will result to diarrhea or gastrointestinal problems. So, pwede, ang wala sa kanila ay fructose 1-phosphate aldolase deficiency naman. No? Next is disorder of pentose metabolism. Sa essential pentosuria, wag lang tayong magpapalito, mataas, no, instead of pentose, no, xylitol ang mataas sa urine. So, pwede kang mag-check for the levels of xylitol in their urine specimen. Ang kulang sa kanila ay L-cellulose reductase deficient or enzyme. That is the last slide for the carbohydrate module in CC1. If you have any question, you may message me via Canvas. Thank you.